My name is Amar Jaju and I welcome you all to this discussion on Nation Next. Today, we are going to speak about the future of cryptocurrency in India. And for that, we have with us some esteemed people on the panel. Let me introduce you to all these people one by one. The first person that we have today on our panel is a chartered accountant and a bachelor in general law. He's also a certified fraud examiner. He has been actively involved in the crypto space since the last 4 years. He is a PwC alumni, having worked in the risk advisory department. In the past, he has worked full time with ZepPay, India's leading cryptocurrency exchange, as the senior manager of strategy and special projects, and has led several key initiatives and projects. Currently, he's working on several projects in the crypto space focused on different aspects like key management and blockchain SIEM solutions. This guest of ours will be speaking for cryptocurrency today. Please welcome Mr. Manan Vora here on the discussion today at Nation Next. Our second guest for today is a chartered accountant and holds multiple degrees. He not only became a chartered accountant at the age of 21 with an all India rank, he has been a university topper in all his exams. He's the first person in Central India to pass the prestigious CISA, that is Certified Information Systems Auditor exam, conducted by Information Systems and Control Association of USA. He is also a certified information security manager. He is a PhD in taxation, having done his doctoral research on the critical study of direct taxes in India. He has been practicing since the last 33 years. Our second guest for today is Dr. Tejinder Singh Rawal. Let's welcome him as well. And our third guest for today, he's going to be moderating this entire session that we have, the session on future of cryptocurrency in India. He has done his graduation from the prestigious SRCC and his MBA Finance from IIFT. He comes with a strong background in banking and capital markets. He has over 17 years of experience working with global organizations such as IQVIA, KPMG, McKinsey, iGate, IDBI Bank. In his last stint, he was the director with KPMG, leading a 150-member global knowledge management business. Please welcome Mr. Winkle Chadda to the discussion, everybody. Winkle Chadda will be moderating this entire session. Now, before we move ahead and I give the reins of this discussion to Mr. Winkle Chadda, Manan, I want to ask you one simple question that, so that our discussion, whatever discussion that we have after this, our listeners can understand the discussions, our viewers can understand the discussion in a much more better way. Manan, if I were to ask you to explain cryptocurrency in a very simple manner, in a manner that layman can understand in a brief manner, I'm sure it's going to take much more time, but in a brief way, if you could make us understand that, I mean, how would you make us understand that?
Yes, this is probably a difficult thing to explain very easily, but I'll try doing my best. So you can think of cryptocurrency as nothing but a digital representation of value, which is uh, stored using a combination of a private and a public key. Every There is a common misunderstanding that every crypto is a currency. So technically, cryptocurrency is not the right term to be used. Generally, what we refer to them as is digital assets, because some of them, Bitcoin was originally perceived to be a currency, but that's not the case with other digital assets. So I would probably start at that. These are basically, if we talk about Bitcoin, right? So this is basically a form of internet money which can be controlled by yourself without really requiring any central party like a bank or any other financial institution. It is controlled by a private key, which you can think of like a password in your crypto world. So if you own your private key, you can use it to send Bitcoin to anyone across the world very quickly. So if you were to talk about Bitcoin, it is a form of internet money, so to say, which can be controlled with a combination of your private key, and it uses public cryptography, the technology behind it, to really facilitate it, and it's basically decentralized, so no one really controls it.
Okay. Okay, great. I think that's fair enough. I think our viewers will get a certain picture about crypto, as you said. Now I hand over the reins of the discussion to Mr. Chadda. Can you please take over and go forward with the discussion that we have today?
first of all, you have done the easiest job by just introducing ourselves, and you have put me, between two heavyweight chartered accountants. So I am feeling really jittery, but I think I would rather not call myself as a moderator. I think I would really like to play the role of a common Indian, layman who is bombarded with a lot of noise around crypto assets. And Manan rightly said that I'm not going to use the word cryptocurrency because that is a part of the larger crypto asset, digital asset, whatever nomenclature we would want to call it. And again, as I said, I'm really speaking from the perspective of a normal Indian who is really confused what's happening. There is every morning there is a headline statement on good, bad, something. There is a ban coming, and suddenly there is a news around Bitcoin shooting up to $60,000, and this is happening. There are fireworks every day, and that is why I think this topic is really really important. I think let's taking a step back. Yes, I have also been following this industry for a long time. Pretty much because of my general interest in financial and capital markets. So I think this all noise, this all idea started in 2008 when there was a small paper on Bitcoin was released. Again, just a paper was there, but somewhere in 2010, there was again a news that a customer bought 2 pizzas with 10,000 Bitcoins. I wish I was that customer today because I would have been sitting somewhere else, if I had those 10,000 Bitcoins. But fast forward, I think since those times, Bitcoin has really gone, I think top of the roof, sky, whatever you would want to call it. I think somewhere from $5 to $1,000 to 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. I think every month, every week, it is making news. And then again, the other side of the story is there is always a noise around it's a bubble. I've been hearing this is a bubble for the last 11, 12 years. I don't know if any bubbles last that long in financial markets history. Again, I've also studied various bubbles. There was a ban in India. RBI came in 2018 to put certain curbs in terms of banks enabling crypto transactions. In 2020, I mean, it's like a big Bollywood drama going on. Then in 2020, Supreme Court lifting the ban, and suddenly everyone is back that cryptocurrency is the next major thing. I think why this discussion is very important from my perspective. There are theories which says it will one day go to zero, but currently it's looking like from 60,000 it looks closer to $100,000 than to zero. If we were to just look at from a numbers perspective. But why it is so important in Indian context? I think there are some rough estimates which says that there are more than 1 crore people who hold a crypto asset in some shape and form. It could be a Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever. I mean, there are some 9,000 plus currencies if I were to look at some of the websites. And there are some 37,000 market exchanges where this trading is taking place. And again, if we were to go by estimates, I mean, Indians currently hold somewhere to the tune of 10,000 crore of INR worth of crypto investments. So I think there is a lot at stake. And that is why all these news, take our attention. I don't know what it is, but one, as you rightly said, we are going to talk about for and against. I think that the truth is you can love crypto assets, you can hate crypto assets, but you can't ignore them in current times. So let's see what the future holds. And with that, I'm going to take a pause, and I'll first maybe perhaps go to Mr. Raval to hear from you, sir. What are your perspective on this crypto assets, currency, whatever you want to call it?
Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you, Amar, and happy to have Manan with us today. When I gave my first speech in a public forum on cryptocurrency, it was, I think, Bitcoin was at $5,000, and I said, sell off everything, get out of it, and have a party. And those people, kept on calling me. Said, "हमने बेच दिया था, अभी तक क्या? अभी तो 60,000 तक जा रहा है." So this is what happens in a situation. Same happens when I advise people to sell gold and the gold started rising. So this is a problem with the speculative products. I'll take you to the basics of economics before we proceed further. Uh, you cannot create anything out of thin air. So crypto is actually an asset which is created out of thin air. I mean, you have put a value to something which does not have any intrinsic value on its of its own. So if you look into the total value of the crypto assets, as you said, the world over, if you calculate the total value, it will be as big as world economy. So you have created world economy as economy as big as world economy out of absolutely thin air, nothing more than that. So the fact why, I mean, you said bubble. If it is a bubble, it should not last this long. Well, it's a tulip mania of the current generation, and this bubble is so robust and so beautiful that it's going. The bulls who are operating in this bubble are going to die with a bang. It will take a lot of time. So when you say cryptocurrency value going from 60,000 to 100,000 is more probable than going from 60,000 to zero, you are right. You're right, because this bubble, to me, it's a bubble. To me, it's a pure and simple bubble. It's a purely speculative product. But this bubble is not going to die pretty soon because of the technology involved, because of the fact that the technology makes it more robust. This is almost same as pump and dump that happens in every other asset bubble which is created. You know the dabba shop, the gray shop and the dabba shop that we call it, the bucket shops. So those bucket shops, they start operating. They are very minuscule version of what happens. They start operating, and a bucket shop is set up, a gray market is set up, and then one day the shop operator closes the dabba and goes away. This does not happen here because technology is fueling uh, the bubble more and more. So the bubble would keep getting bigger, much bigger, thanks to technology involved, thanks to the fact that this is very robust. This is not something where technologically there are any loopholes. So it gets bigger and bigger before it falls. So it's going to take a lot of time for this bubble to fall. So if you are when people ask me about cryptocurrency and their keenness to interest in cryptocurrency, I say you can invest, presume it to be a purely speculative product. It does not have any characteristic of an intrinsic value product. So it's not an asset. It's a speculative product. So if you understand that this is speculative and you want to ride on the wave, keep riding. No issues in that. But understand that ultimately in the final analysis, the value is a big zero, not a single penny more than a big zero. When this happens is not sure. So it may happen maybe many years from now, but one fine day, this currency is a bad word to use for this asset or this bubble is going to burst. The fact that more and more people are getting into cryptocurrencies would keep fueling the boom, would keep adding fire, keep adding more and more air to the bubble, and the bubble would keep going bigger and bigger, and there would be a fall someday. So if you are lucky, this may perhaps happen many years from now, as I said. So if you're lucky, if you're riding on it, keep riding, and have a good stop loss limit, and you get out of it, you're lucky. If it crashes one fine day, which is the probability of which I do not find, though it's, I'm somebody who never like to, comment and predict on the speculative products future. But it does not seem, reasonable to believe that it will crash suddenly to zero. So it may go down, and finally there would be something happening, some government banning or something going wrong, which ultimately would take it to its realistic value, which is zero. So if you are into cryptocurrencies, understand that it's speculative. Understand that you are riding on a wave. Understand that you're riding on a momentum. Keep riding. Have but back of your mind, have a complete understanding of the fact that this is speculative, nothing more than that. So this is what I would say at the moment. Then we can later discuss more on this.
Thank you, Mr. Rawal. Very interesting. So one simple key takeaway, can I take it? This bubble is here to stay for some time. So can we make some money?
Yes, we can. Again, as I said, predicting the trend line of a purely speculative product is too dangerous. But it's not going to die soon. It looks like, yeah.
All right.
So
All right.
it's double speculative, zero intrinsic value, but you can have a party. That's it.
All right. I'll go to Manan for his views, and I'll pitch in sometime. Manan, what do you have to comment about the thin air? It is completely made out of thin air, and this. I believe the current market value of the entire crypto assets is close to 2 trillion. So $2 trillion is made out of thin air.
So first, let me actually begin with a common disclaimer that I generally begin every conversation with. So nothing that we discuss here is financial advice. Absolutely invest the money that you are really ready to lose. Nothing should be construed as investment advice. So with that out of the way, there were some interesting points that I think Mr. Rahul was making, and I would really not like to say that I disagree with all of them. So let's first start with things that I agree on. I agree that Bitcoin is a speculative asset. I agree that it is very volatile. I agree that you can end up losing your entire value. Never any person who's always been involved with Bitcoin has ever claimed to, with absolute certainty that this is a coin that can never go to zero. If you really follow all the really nice people that have been promoting Bitcoin or Ethereum or any blockchain, have always been cognizant of the fact that this is speculative. This can absolutely go to zero. So we are not here to really encourage people to, in fact, we are very against people who want to make a quick buck. Now, so that out of the way, absolutely no denying the fact that it's speculative. But having said that, it's not that any financial product by its intimate nature is going to be speculative to some extent. So calling, for example, speculating on a Vodafone Idea stock right now, or speculating on penny stocks in the market, is not going to, we can't take away the fact that even those are speculative in nature. So let's just really understand that when you're investing in something, you are by default, there is an element of speculation that comes in, that there is nothing you can do. Now, the fact that Bitcoin is so new right now, with any technology that is still relatively new, with decentralized finance still in its infancy right now, with Web 3.0 still in its infancy, it is very obvious that there is going to be a lot of speculation. And when Dr. Rahul really calls this being a bubble. So I want to address the bubble part right now. So I think anything where you really put your money, or where retail investors or where institutional investors really get into an asset class without really understanding the fundamentals behind it, that will eventually result in a bubble. Now, unfortunately, again, with something which is so new, a lot of effort has been put in the industry right now to educate people, to really teach them about Bitcoin, teach them about Ethereum. There are various courses that are coming up, various educational institutions that are coming up. So all of them are trying to do only one thing. They are trying to address the core problem of people, trying to make them understand about what this is before really investing, so that you really make sure that this is not a bubble. Now, a very classic example of how this is working is when you see the December 2017 rally, where Bitcoin rallied up to $19,000, $20,000, and which was really fueled by speculation, retail FOMO, and which really resulted in a classic bubble. You will really see what happened after that immediately in, like, say, January or February of 2018, and 2 years following that was that Bitcoin immediately dropped back to $3,000, and this was a classic pump and dump. No one in the industry denies that. But what the industry did at that time is that they really realized that this is a big problem right now, where people really need to be educated about it. And the only way, there was a lot of effort spent there. And now, as a result of which, when you see the rally here, when it broke 20,000 this year, you see a lot of the difference between the rally is that there is a lot of institutional money that is coming in. There is a lot of effort that publicly listed companies like Tesla or MicroStrategy have been putting in right now to really educate people about it. So it's always going to remain a bubble if you don't know anything about it. I don't think a lot of people even do fundamental analysis of stocks before investing in equity markets right now. A lot of it is driven by tips. So that is not anything short of speculation or a bubble, or for that matter, the entire derivatives market can be looked at it as a bubble. So I mean, we can debate all day about whether Bitcoin is a bubble or not, but I think it's only education that is going to really help. The more people learn about it, the more people will know about it, and the less it will appear as a bubble. But unfortunately, with anything that is new, this is always going to be a classic problem with a new technology that comes in. Now, when the internet came in, no one really thought of applications like Amazon or e-commerce, right? So it took baby steps. So this is what is happening with blockchain right now. When it came, Bitcoin was just trying to solve one problem. Ethereum realized that we need smart contract abilities, so Ethereum came in. Then we realized that proof of work can't happen, so proof of stake came in. Then we realized proof of stake. So I'm not going to get very technical about it, but what I'm saying is that if you really follow the industry very closely, you will see that the developments are happening very beautifully. And fortunately, India is at the forefront of it right now. Now, last point that I really picked up from Dr. Raval's initial discussion was that this is created out of thin air. Now, any tech product that you've created, if you understand the fundamentals behind it, if you understand the code behind it, I would not understand how we can call it that it is created out of thin air. These are legitimate products that have been coded, which are open source, unlike your centralized world where everyone wants to run for IP rights and protect all of their codes on GitHub. Here, all projects, all codes are really open source. This is a like you would create a product, right? Like you would create, say, an identity management system or a remittance system. We are not going to say that PayPal is created out of thin air. It was coded. There is an application. Ethereum is coded. There are decentralized applications that are being used. So I don't know how this is any different than that. And why is this not created out of thin air? And why is Ethereum created out of thin air? But I mean, if you, again, falls back to the same thing, if you spend more time about reading the fundamentals behind it, I don't think you will, agree that it's created out of thin air. And last, talking about intrinsic value, right? So there are various different models that you can use to value Bitcoin also. There could be a stock to flow model. There could be, you could just simply take as the cost of mining to be the intrinsic value to it. But I just want to take one step here is that it might sound very radical because we're not used to valuing assets in this traditional way of discounted cash flow. But if you think about currency, right? Like if you think about, like, I'm just taking a parallel between how you can look at Bitcoin. So if you really look at a 10 rupee or a 100 rupee note right now that the government is issuing, that has no intrinsic value. That paper is going to cost you the same. Now, the intrinsic value comes from the fact that you trust the government to honor this. So trust is also an important aspect when you talk about intrinsic value in terms of Bitcoin. If more and more people come and start using Bitcoin as a mode of payment, and more people start trusting Bitcoin as a monetary network, it is going to drive value, and you cannot discount the trust factor when you're calculating intrinsic value, because otherwise, why is a 500 and a 2000 rupee note different in value? What is the intrinsic value there? Is my counter question to that. The intrinsic value is only the fact that you're really trusting your government, the money that the government is issued. So if you want to go and talk to Venezuela, talk to people in Venezuela and see if they really value what their government says, or if they really believe in the actual value of their currency, is when you will realize that they're really Bitcoin has been a blessing for them, especially in terms of global trade. So, I mean, I would defer to Dr. Raval on those points, agreeing to him completely on the fact that this is speculative. And if you are only going to put money without understanding the beauty behind Bitcoin and Ethereum and just wanting to make quick bucks, yeah, the party is not going to end well for you. So educate yourself, take a calculated exposure. It's not every day that you get a chance to invest in an asset class that is as liquid as equity, even more liquid than equity, and with such low amounts that you can. So it's a good chance for you to diversify, but again, educate yourself.
Mr. Raval wants to make some comments. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. The very interesting comments and very interesting. See, every bubble, end of every bubble is similar. This time it's different. Is always a So this time this is not a bubble. This time valuation norms have to be changed so that intrinsic value can be calculated. Remember dot-com boom. Remember all the crashes that have happened in the history. I've written a book on all the crashes that have happened in history, on the bubbles in the history for last 300 years. Every bubble has same story. You educate more people so that you have more and more people coming into it, the greater fool theory coming into play. Number two, you find out ways to, since the traditional accounting norms do not justify the valuation, you find out ways, eyeballs, footfalls, and those kind of valuations. So every bubble has some or the other methodology. The cost of electricity put into mining a Bitcoin is an absurd kind of valuation method. So you try to find out some kind of methodology, discounted cash flow. See, when you have something which is not an asset and it's generating value just because of the perception of the people around it. And then you calculate that value, and from that discounted cash flow, you try to find out the present value. So it's begging the question. You're taking it on a round trip. You you create some value, and then out of that value, you create a discounted cash flow model for that. So this happens every time there is a bubble. This would happen. See, number one, when the paper was written by whoever he was, Satoshi or whoever the person who wrote that paper, the purpose was to create a mechanism of transferring money from A person to B person. It was a methodology of transferring, avoiding the duplicity that happens in the process. It was never meant to create currency out of that. Currency got created because, like the monopoly currency, like the monopoly that you play, suddenly you put value to that and it started flowing, and people started buying and selling those monopoly notes, and it became currency. See, why a 500 rupee note is different from 2000 rupee note, and why 500 rupee would remain a 500 rupee is because it's a fiat currency. It's a currency backed by the government. Why Bitcoin is not a currency is because the value of Bitcoin keeps rising. The moment a currency ceases to be a stable thing, the moment it keeps rising, erratic, rising or falling, whatever, the moment it fluctuates, it defies the basic principle of economics. Money cannot be so fluctuating in the first place. It is not a store of value. Nothing has been it's not gold. Gold, again, I would come to gold and this comparison later. Number three, the fact that this is like a software code, you said, and it's like a data or a software which has got its value because it is created out of that. No, a data which is protected, or a software which is protected by Microsoft or any other company is because that company has the sole right to buy and sell that product. So it gets value out of that. Cryptocurrency, there is no entry barrier. You can create 9,000 cryptocurrencies, and every cryptocurrency. So when people say that Bitcoin is like gold, they don't realize that there is currency B, then there is currency C, and there is currency 9,000, and it will keep rising. So every time, so there is no entry barrier. There is no demand supply gap. There's a demand supply gap in Bitcoins at the moment, but there is no such demand supply. It's not fulfilling any function which other software cannot do. So if you're thinking of it as a software, so all these logics, when you start explaining to people, convincing them there is that it has got intrinsic value and it is not a speculative. Now saying that derivatives are speculative and you're buying a penny stock, it's speculative. There's a big difference between speculating in an asset and speculating in a speculative product. The share of a company is a slice of the ownership of the company that you get when you buy a share of that company. So people could speculate on that also, but an investor can buy that share and he becomes owner of that company to the extent of one share that he has bought. It does not happen here. So it's a speculative product. Share of a company is a product on which you can speculate if you want to. There's a major difference between that. I think this is what often I can offer as a rebuttal on this. And the fact that intrinsic value of Bitcoin remains, or every other cryptocurrency remains zero, I am 100% convinced on that. It's as Warren Buffett rightly said, you are putting a premium on the check which is being used for transferring money. The mechanism that was created was to create a check for transferring money from one person to another person. that check is now having a $60,000 value, right? So
I'll just I think I'll make a quick comment to this. I think we need perhaps days to discuss the intrinsic value of a crypto asset, because traditional financial models may not be the right tools to arrive at the right value, and they keep on evolving as you said. But maybe just a couple of quick comments. I think every crypto asset, if I understand this correctly, has a finite value. You can design unlimited cryptocurrencies, but a Bitcoin has a finite value. And that demand supply gap on a Bitcoin or an Ethereum in isolation is also a factor to drive their prices, which is the scarcity of these assets. And I think that's one part, but I again would want to maybe step back from the debate on the intrinsic values or not, because this is a subject in itself and I'm conscious of time. I think one point I want to hear your comments is, I mean, whatever it is, but what is happening, let's also look at, we can't be isolating ourselves just to what's happening in India. Let's look at what some of the countries are doing. So US has defined Bitcoin as a monetary service business. The Treasury, the US Treasury, the CFTC, which is the commodity exchange, has defined it as a commodity, and there is a regulated trading going on. Canada also defines it as a commodity. Australia defines it like a property on which you can have a capital gain and you can tax accordingly. European Union considers it as supply of services that is exempt from VAT and other EU member states. Finland, again, a commodity, and so many other countries, South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mexico, Russia. So I want to understand what is the thought process of these countries? Why? And none of them are saying it as a currency. So, and that is where I think we are very conscious whenever someone says it's not a currency, it is a digital asset. So can India isolate from what's happening, around the world on the usage and acceptance? And, there is multiple other, as I was saying in the initial stages, there are multiple headline statements. I think recently a news came where Goldman Sachs is preparing to issue first investment channels for Bitcoin. Morgan Stanley is the first big bank offering Bitcoin to wealthy clients. And these are the same investment banks. I remember Mr. Rawal, I think JP Demon from JP Morgan had compared Bitcoin to the tulip bulbs. So somewhere, I don't know whether these investment banks are reconsidering their opinion about this asset class, or it is just a, urge to make some money, even if it has got no intrinsic value. Some of the companies like Tesla have started accepting it as a means of payment. Visa and PayPal are going mainstream with Ethereum and cryptocurrency. There's a very major exchange called Coinbase. It has plans to set up its offices in India. So again, all these people can't be fooled at the same time. I don't know. Or they're all doing speculation.
Yeah, you want me to answer that question? Yes.
Sure.
I tell you, number one, why Tesla and eBay and other companies and in fact, all luxury car manufacturers are accepting Bitcoin. And even Amazon in USA for certain transactions would accept Bitcoin. This actually creates problems. This actually makes bubble go bigger and bigger, and continue to grow bigger before it crashes. That's one thing. Secondly, all those the institutions that you're talking about, they were also dealing with subprime mortgages. They were also they knew that the asset class was too much of a bubble. They still did that. So everybody does that. It's a short-termism. As I said, as long as you can ride on the momentum, why not ride on the momentum? This is what everybody would say. So people would keep doing it. And I tell you, I am a consultant to a couple of US-based companies who are vendors and who are taking Bitcoins as a currency for the purpose of the transactions. I have advised them to settle the transaction the same day. So they would settle the transaction, square it off the same day, so that if there is an exchange loss in the process, which is not happening at the moment, it's rising. So, but there could be exchange fluctuation loss in the process. They would book the profit or losses the same day, presuming it to be the losses on the transaction. So when Tesla gets Bitcoins for the car that it has sold, it will be booking the profit the same day, booking profit or losses, whatever in the transaction the same day. They would not hold it. If they are holding it, it's speculative holding. If they're holding
just one point here, Elon Musk has been very categorically in his statement that they will not. No. Let me finish.
Let me complete my sentence. Let me please complete my sentence. They know that from the point of view of financial prudence, this transaction is over when you have received the currency in form of any alternate currency. If they decide to hold it beyond that, it's speculative. They also understand speculative. So if Elon Musk wants to speculate, I've got my clients who are doing same thing. And this is a advisory issued by the CPA US to that anything beyond, if you're holding it in stock, it's speculative for you. So it has to be reported as a speculative product. I can show that.
But Mr. Rawal, forget these private players, the investment banks and the Elon Musks of the world. But let's talk about the governments. There are these examples around us who are.
Because your problem was, why they're treating it as commodity is very simple. See, they have to find a way of taxing it. It is not currency. The moment they declare it as a currency, it becomes a problem for them. It competes with the fiat currency of the government. It needs to have a sovereign backing to become a currency. So it cannot become a currency. So if I have to put it to tax, the government cannot let it escape taxation. So it's primarily for the purpose of putting it to taxation that it becomes a commodity. But as simple as that. So when they're treating it as a commodity, it's not giving a legitimacy to it, but rather than putting it to tax the transaction that happens in cryptocurrencies. As simple as that, Got it?
No, I'm not sure if I completely agree with that, that if it is only from the perspective of making a tax revenue that you are legitimizing something which can at the end, because, regulations by SEC, their ultimate objective is to protect the investor at the end of the day. And they would not want to do something, launch, an asset which is a bubble just to make tax revenue out of it.
Bitcoin, if cryptocurrency crashes tomorrow, if Bitcoin crashes tomorrow, will people hold SEC responsible for that?
So will the people hold SEC
responsible?
Why will they make SEC responsible? I mean, that's not a valid argument at all.
So the argument doesn't stand water. That's what I'm saying.
See, what is happening is when you convince yourself of something to be a bubble, when you convince yourself of something to have no intrinsic value, no matter whatever direction the world will move in, you will find you become cynical enough to see. So first, the discussion, Winkle, used to be that they are not regulating it, they're banning it. Now, if they're regulating it, they are regulating it because they want to tax it. It can't get even more cynical than that, right? Now, second point, Tesla deciding to buy Tesla does not function on the whims and fancy of Elon Musk. It is a publicly traded company. There is a protocol that is followed. There is a board of directors that is followed. There is a shareholder vote that happens. So it is not as if I am Elon Musk and I go and say I'm going to accept Bitcoin today and not and very specifically have they mentioned that we will never be converting the Bitcoin that we receive as payment against Tesla into fiat currency. Now, if they're deciding to do that, then they're speculating. If they're not deciding to do that, which means we are supporting us. So I don't know what amount of good news or what amount of industry should we move in to really convince Dr. Rawal that this is not a bubble. So, and this is honestly going to be very difficult. So what we've as an industry taken a stand is
I can tell you what amount of conviction would be required. Meet me after this bubble bursts. You get back. I hope Amar would organize another meeting after this bubble is gone and everybody has vanished from the scene, and people who are convincing people.
Again, this statement makes no sense because we don't know what the timing is, right? Like, say you tell me 5 years, meet me in 5 years, you meet in 5 years.
We don't know when, but we know sure that it is going to happen.
So I'm saying that we know it's not going to happen. So there is no point.
That's why if it happens, you come back and try to rectify your statement. I will be very happy with that. And it is cynical when you have decided something to have value when it does not have. It's as simple as that.
I hold the same exact.
I understand fundamentals of economics very well, and I can tell you, it has got zero value. ZERO, nothing more than that.
Well, the world seems to disagree.
This just shows, the level of passion that exists. The two schools of thoughts which are completely, extremely opposite to each other, and I think that is why the world is divided on a topic like this. And it's really, really one of a case which will, go on in the history that, which divides the entire world on so many aspects with regards to this asset. But I think wherever we are, let's say it is good, bad, ugly, great. I don't know what category will it fit in at the end of the day. Now, whatever are the constraints, how do you suggest, what do you think, where should we go from here? I think let's talk about India. I think to get access to a financial asset, let's say a crypto asset, all you need is a mobile and an internet connection. And if I'm quoting Nandan Nilekani, I think he recently said that Indians should be allowed to have crypto as an asset class. So somewhere, don't you think that this also has an opportunity for India to drive financial inclusion, something which we have been badly struggling over the years to give the entire country access to the larger financial network ecosystem? The other, what are the possibilities? Again, I get it. There is no one school of thought, and we can't have a conclusion at the end of the day or unanimous opinion. Can we learn from the West? Again, do the taxing, but don't ban us. Or we are not saying this is a currency. Let it coexist like an asset. Do you think that those are some of the possibilities?
Because it's a very interesting thing. And let me tell you that I am so fascinated with blockchain technology. It is like one of the best things that has happened. Manan talked about internet being a revolutionary step. This is certainly something that is the best invention that has happened in recent times. I would fully agree with that. It's a robust product. It's kind of a 100% secure product. The problem is with the cryptocurrencies. So what could be the way out? Like if I believe it to be a bubble, which I'm fully convinced it is. What could be the way out? Number one is, the day the government gives a backing, sovereign backing to one of the cryptocurrencies, it becomes a legitimate product. So the day Government of India the Reserve Bank of India comes out with its own blockchain-based money, which is going to happen sooner or later, the world over, all countries are going to come out with their own blockchain-based money. That gives a legitimacy to it, and that becomes a currency immediately. Unfortunately, if that happens, the value would not keep rising to $60,000. The value has to remain stable in order that it serves the purpose of a currency. The moment it keeps rising speculatively, it ceases to be a currency. So the good thing that would happen would be Reserve Bank of India legitimizing blockchain-based cryptocurrency as a currency of as a convenience currency for transferring money from one person. So 100 rupee and 500 rupee also become cryptocurrency, so to say. That would be one thing. See, a big problem that exists because of cryptocurrency and which causes reluctance on the part of the governments to ban cryptocurrencies is the involvement of the dark web and huge amount. Silk Road clones are thousands now. There are thousands of Silk Road clones who are using cryptocurrencies for the transaction. And why cryptocurrencies continue to be of value is because of so much of investment that has been made in the dark web and continues to be. What we see is a very thin surface. Underneath is a huge amount of money being spent every day in the dark web using cryptocurrencies. There is anonymity. There is no traceability of the transaction. Everything is like perfect for the dark web. Politicians' money, mafia money, scamsters' money, everything, a huge money has gone into it already. So the government, and one thing in fact, I was trying to assess the damage that would happen to the world economy if cryptocurrency is banned by one of the major governments. And it could be colossal, it would be like a collapse of the world economy. The kind of statistics that you were giving about the total money in circulation. If one major government bans cryptocurrency, it will be collapse of the world economy, which would be perhaps the biggest collapse that would ever happen. So this perpetuates the problem. This makes the problem bubble grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So as I said, I would not speculate when it's going to fall, but the bubble would keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can ride on the trend if you want to. But ultimately, when one major government bans cryptocurrency, let's imagine a hypothetical situation that not so hypothetical also, it could happen someday. One major government banning cryptocurrency, since it's an interconnected world, it's not a geographically divided world. The moment it bans, the ripple effect would be all over. Cryptocurrency gets, it crashes. So that explains why the reluctance on the part of the government also. It's huge. We have created a huge mass of something that is hypothetical and fictional to say.
I think just two quick comments I'll make. I'll make to the
Wrinkle,
suggestions. Go ahead.
Wrinkle,
I know you are very passionate. Go ahead.
few comments here. So
Go ahead.
I actually took the effort out to just jot down points now so that I don't miss out on any. So let's start with a few things, right? So the first thing is dark web. Okay, let's pick dark web. So suddenly when I listen to Dr. Raval and people who've been really against crypto, is that I feel that all problems of humanity have only begun after crypto came in circulation. Before crypto, the world was a very peaceful, private, no terrorist financing, no dark web, no nothing. And crypto has come, and now all the problems have begun. So let me tell you, fiat currency also, all of these have been very rampantly going on. The earlier view, all of these arguments, I feel like I am going back in 2016 now. All of these views that cryptocurrency is anonymous, cannot be traced. There are tools like chain analysis. It has become extremely efficient and easy. Everyone cooperates now. It is very easy to try and find out who really owns it with tools like chain analysis, etc. You try opening an account with any of these exchanges without KYC and tell me if they open your account. So number one there. Second, Dr. Raval mentioned about one major government banning crypto and see the repellent effect. First, China banned. I didn't see a repellent effect. India, there was an RBI ban came in. All trading activity was really stopped. I didn't see a global movement really happening. Right now, there were talks of India banning crypto and all of that going to the dogs. I didn't see a global effect on the crypto industry. In fact, crypto soared, performed excellently well in the pandemic. So if India and China together are talking about ban, we are talking about half of the world population not using cryptocurrency. So I don't know which major else government is going to do that. In fact, almost all major governments apart from that have really moved towards regulation, including ETFs coming for Bitcoin. The first Bitcoin ETF coming from Canada. So I don't see happening that. So third, so this was the point there. Now, another counterintuitive argument was that politicians are using to really, stash all of their crypto in whatever black money in crypto. So I find it very counterintuitive. Then the government is even considering banning it. I mean, if I am really going to use it for my private purposes, I might as well want to really regulate it. And if it is really so anonymous, then I think it probably should be the regulator's best friend. So I don't see that happening.
I think there is a very strong voice around having a regulation for crypto, maybe as an asset, as a security, as a commodity. And if I, as an intelligent investor, I want to speculate, give that liberty to the investor to put his money and lose it. Again, we are not saying that I'm going to the government to say that return my money. That we even can't do even in stock markets. I mean, if tomorrow Reliance stock crashes by 50%, I can't go to the SEBI or the government and say that return my money. So again, it's not about making these cryptos as currencies. It's about just, it's like, for the lack of maybe a stupid example, like an artwork, an artwork may be selling at millions of dollars. Now one can debate what is the intrinsic value in that. But I, as an investor, want to put my money and I'm very conscious about losing it also. So and I'm willing to pay tax at the end of the day. So is that a possibility?
Yeah. This is what I started with. I said it's something that has got zero value, but something that you can speculate on. Absolutely. I mean, I fully agree on that. You can certainly make money, and when I say make money, you can lose money also because it's a high risk game. High risk game would mean high gain, high losses. It cannot, unless there is some intrinsic value to fall back upon, the losses could be high. And the gains have been higher, we know it. So and because the product is robust, because the product is technologically superior, the bubble does not burst that easily. So understand that it's a bubble. And to somebody who belongs to the cult, it's impossible to, he's already been brainwashed. So it's impossible for that person to understand that this is a bubble. So it will go on like that. It's an argument and counter argument. I would say I have a lot of clients who are investing in cryptocurrencies. I tell them that go ahead, invest. Understand that value is zero. If you're making money, you have a party. If you're not making money, understand that you put your money into a casino where it was a slot machine where you got a lot of money, and if you're not lucky, you lost all the money. So just understand that, have that in mind, and then invest. No harm in that. As for personally for myself, I would never invest in any speculative product. I don't invest in gold also, because gold also I consider to be something which has got
Really?
value, because for the same reason, we can argue. Artwork, certainly, with the day MF Hussain puts his signature, it has got a value. The value is the perception of the people of the artwork. Same is the perception of the people in cryptocurrency. As long as the perception remains, the value remains. The day people decide that MF Hussain is zero, it becomes zero. So no intrinsic value, but certainly has got a value. So same thing, perception value is there and would exist. But problem is perception value, how long will it continue? So that's it. So MF Hussain perhaps become immortal and his value could continue to rise. In case of cryptocurrencies, I will be happy if what Manan says happens to be true and it keeps rising. I'll be very happy about it. But I know that it doesn't happen that way.
I think I'm just conscious of time. I think that let's just have one last comment, Manan and Dr. Rahul from you before. I mean, what's your final take?
So I just want to summarize with a few things, right? So first, if you are not going to take time to understand the technology, it is always going to appear like a bubble. It is like if you tell me to buy Reliance stock and I'm not going to study about the fundamentals, then it is a bubble for me. So if your approach is going to be to just keep considering it as a bubble versus really understanding the technology, there is utility to Ethereum, there is utility to BAT, there is utility to various tokens. If you don't spend time to understand the utility behind it, DeFi is a $100 billion market, $100 trillion market, the bond market. If you don't understand the utility behind it, it is always going to be a bubble. So there is nothing that can be done about it. Now, too, just one thing I missed last time is that there was a typical argument that is always being made is that I like blockchain, but I don't like crypto. I mean, for honestly, anyone who's studied and taken effort to really understand what blockchain is, this statement will never make sense, because if you want a truly decentralized blockchain, you need an incentive mechanism for validators to validate the transaction. That has to come from the native coin. Coming up with a centrally backed digital currency really defeats the purpose. I think Google Pay and UPI are doing a very good job at digitalizing that. So let's not solve a problem that is not even existing. So let's really take the time to invest. If there is one thing I want your viewers to take away from this is, please do not really think of it as a bubble. It will always be as a bubble if you don't look at the value. We as crypto people are not really wanting Bitcoin to go $100,000 or 200,000. We want people to really spend time really understanding it. Don't look at it as only something that can be used for quick gains. If you're spending time, there are various resources. I can always direct you to those excellent academic resources to learn about crypto. If you learn about it, it is not going to be a bubble. You will really understand the beauty behind all of this. So educate, and you will realize it's not a bubble.
Yes, my closing comment is educating yourself on something that's a bubble does not make bubble a non-bubble. Number one thing. Number two, I know so much of technology. I have been studying cryptocurrencies the day it came into existence. I have been keeping track of it, and I can tell you it's speculative. The intrinsic value is a big zero, nothing more than that. And I understand technology better than many people around do. But I can still tell you with full confidence that the value is zero. But still, I would agree with Manan and I would agree with Twinkle also that if you want to invest, there are a lot of people who ride on the trend in the stock market. They know that the value is zero of a particular stock. They still make money out of that. So if you have that inclination and if you're finding an opportunity to make money out of that, go ahead and do it. But thinking that something that has got a value, or because you educate yourself more, something which does not have a value would have a value. No, sorry, that would not happen. Well, I would conclude with that, but at the same time, no bad feelings about our argument, because we were different, different world. I know it was bound to happen. So in fact, I normally avoid a debate on Bitcoin with somebody who is a member of the cult. But today we did that. So no hard feeling about that. You can still make money in Bitcoin, understanding the fine prints. That's it.
Awesome. I think this is a lovely discussion.
If
And I'll just
you don't,
sorry.
if you don't debate with a member of the community, then who are you
Where
even
is the
debating
debate?
I don't want to get into it. I don't want it to become an Arnab Goswami show, in short. I don't want it to, because it's impossible to convince Manan that it's a bubble. It's impossible. I can never do that. So no point explaining. So that's it. That's why I don't want to get into urban Arnab Goswami kind of debate.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, it did not happen here, of course. But
No,
that is-
absolutely. That's not the intent.
But,
I mean,
still we are different worlds. Extremely different world. You're one world, I'm another world. So that's again the beauty of this program. We could continue to put forth our point of view, still agreeing to disagree with each other.
Yeah. No, I think
absolutely.
recently it's a very beautiful statement that came from the finance minister that the government is not looking at shutting off the crypto assets, and there will be a window for experiments on blockchain. And center is open to evaluate, explore, because there is definitely the potential. And I think the only thing I can say towards the end is I think this topic needs a democratic dialogue. All right, this cannot be a one-size-fit-all approach, banning or no banning. Perhaps we don't know the solution, and countries are in the middle of figuring out what the right solution is. And somewhere, for as long as the bubble stays or the intrinsic value stays, I think that time will tell. But for as long as we approach it with some bit of all heads on the table, with space and for everyone to express and understanding all the players in the ecosystem, I think that there will be the mutual benefit for everyone.
Absolutely.
But I think amazing talking to all of you. Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Raval and Manan, thank you so much for putting your passionate views on this discussion today. It was, I personally learned a lot about things. And Twinkle, thank you so much for dissecting their thoughts and putting them in perspective. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for this lovely discussion at Nation Next.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, all of you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Subscribe to Nation Next YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get regular updates from Nation Next. Also like Nation Next Facebook page and follow us on Instagram and Twitter.